All right, hello, welcome back to Redemption Radio. This is week one recap, taking a look at our first couple games of season one of Redemption. I am Human Bones. I'm so sorry, I missed one person. I am joined by Stal Denzoa and Hate Daddy.
What's up, everybody?
Put them out in order, sorry.
Yeah, hold on a sec. I gotta just that intro was sweet. Like,
Oh, thanks.
I really
I
like that. I don't know if anybody else like actually sat there and watched it. Like, I was kind of like zoning out. Like, I felt like I was in a trance. Like, pop a couple of shrooms with that, and like you're having a good time.
Well, that's our hub music. I don't know if you know that.
I know
On
that's the
on
hub
WAD.
music. Isn't it?
A little edit from Ed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I've always liked the music. The problem is his original hub was like the size of its own universe. So I like the music though. It's very perfect. Good.
Music was good. I thought the colors went really well.
I did, dude. I felt like it was like we were like I was waiting for like rave music to just fucking bust out, like go full EDM.
Yep. Sorry.
Yes, I am muted. I'm glad you noticed because I didn't.
He's over there talking. Why can't anybody fucking hear me?
I was trying to crack a joke, but yeah, never mind. It's too late now.
Well, I appreciate everybody joining us. So I don't know the exact map name or the map number, but we played a brand new map this week, and so that caused some. Well, I wouldn't say it caused a lot of controversy, but I think it's interesting to talk about when we play new maps. Before we do that, I also thought it would be important to bring up the fact that, which I didn't know about, there's sort of a different point system, I guess, than what we're used to. So you get, and correct me if I'm wrong, you get 5 points for a 2-round win, 4 points for a 3-round win, and then it drops down to, 1 point for a 3-round loss, and no points if you don't win a round. No ties. So there is no tying in the regular season, which is pretty different, which means really, like, I don't know, if I was playing, my team's always kind of sucked one round and tried to make it through 3. So that strategy kind of goes out the window when you have to play to win. So how do you think that's going to shape up? Especially because it looks like in the standings, we have 3 teams with 5 points and 3 teams with 0 points. That's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty short season, and with the points that we have in place now, it's kind of new-ish, I guess. I don't think any other league has done that kind of point system that we have. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's a brand new season, brand new league, so I guess we'll only know till the end.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, to be honest, I haven't really paid attention to how the point system works, but that short explanation was enough to give me a heads up. And honestly, I think it's better to not tie during regular seasons because you oftentimes get to those situations where some teams do not make the cut to the playoffs by just like 1 point or something. And, it's oftentimes because they had a tie during the regular season. I think when you don't have any ties, it's more clear on who is supposed to be in the playoffs and who is not. Because, only the winning teams get there.
I think it's interesting. I don't have an opinion that it's better or worse. I think it's just different. I think in a shorter season, it's probably going to end up being relatively insignificant. But I think the one area where it might make a big difference isn't in the points themselves in terms of, having those 2 points. Like, let's say you tie, you get those 2 points. Traditionally, that's what it's been across other leagues where you tie 2 points, both teams, right? Well, now you're taking away another tiebreaker. So if we've got a situation where, let's say, and I'm just throwing out numbers, so this is not representative of what anything will look like at the end of the season, but let's say there's 6 teams, 4 of them make the postseason, 2 of them do not. And we're down to the last week, and the 5th seed and the 4th seed are neck and neck, and they both finish with the same amount of points. Now, this would happen too if they both tied, because points are points, right? Like, you don't shave points. The only way that you can get a point or lose a point is by winning, losing, or tying in other leagues, whereas in this league it's just winning or losing. So you're not changing anything with the points, you're just removing another potential way to break a tie. Like, let's say, what I mean by that is, what I mean by that is, hey, it's win, lose, or draw in this scenario. Well, if both teams win and they finish with the same amount of points, again, it's complete. I think in in a long line of things, it's insignificant, but it can make something interesting that way. And in that situation, you would be looking at like a really arbitrary tiebreaker anyway. If both teams are finishing with the same points, it's like, what's your next up? Is it head to head? I'm assuming. And then if there's no head to head, it would probably be like strength of victory or.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact order, but I think it's head to head, then strength of victory, and then flags captured. So
yeah, and I mean they're all like, it's determining like which one is better or worse. It all is subjective at that point. Obviously, like head to head should matter the most, but if there's no head to head, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really not sure that the point differential or the point system is going to matter. And it didn't seem to matter in this first week anyway, because all 3 games went only 2 rounds. Right? So
yep.
It didn't really make much of a difference. And I don't know. It's a brand new map, map 68. It's always a gamble when you put a brand new map into a season. But I actually really like this one. I have not played it, but I liked watching it. I thought the spawns were really great, and I didn't find that it was too heavy like in the middle. I thought the way that the spawns were set up, if a team was gonna get a flag across, like it was enough time for the defending the team trying to get their flag back to get over there and like save the flag, which we saw a lot of that. So I don't know. You guys played the map. What do you guys think about it? Because one person didn't like it, so just curious.
Yeah. Well, honestly, to be honest, I really love the map. Surprisingly, at first when I saw it, I thought like this isn't going to be any good. You know, I thought it was more of like a Prive or a pub map, but playing it actually, like, you go into depth into like comms and stuff like that. And it was really awesome, to be honest, because me and Stal, for example, were on the same team. We were constantly communicating with each other, constantly telling like, okay, we have one window, we got one going top, we got one med kit, we got one in the bag, for example. And it's just one of those maps where communication is like super important. If you have no communication, you're going to lose regardless. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're screwed if you have no communication. And it's awesome to have a map like that because it gets like, you get to know your team when you play maps like that. And you create that synergy because you learn how to play together. For example, such things that you do not have on, say, for example, Ralph's Magical Ice Forts, because everybody's been playing that map for over 10 years and they know it like the back of their hand. And one thing I really enjoyed about that map was timing the blue armor, for example. And the most fun thing, in my opinion, was if the enemy carrier gets into their it gets into their base, and you're standing at the window outside next to the rocket launcher, you can shoot them down. And if your teammate's at the window, you can call it out like, oh, I'm going to kill him. I got him. And they jump in, grab the flag, return it, and they book it out of there. It's so much fun to have stuff like that happening. It's so chaotic, yet it's super fun to play a map like that, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. And I got to give props to Jake for that because in my opinion, it's the map that really deserved to make it to the league as week 1.
Don't give Jake props.
I got to. I don't want to. I want to tell him to eat poop and shed tears, but I cannot because it was a good map.
Go ahead, Stal, because I want to hear what you have to say too.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun map. I think maybe some changes can be made to make it a little like flow a bit better so that the last second saves don't happen so frequent. Maybe spawn placement should be a little bit different, or mid visibility should be a little bit better. But I agree with Denzoa that the map is just fun to play on, especially if you're winning. If you're losing, then yeah, I could understand it could be a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I agree. It's a fun map. Good job, Jake.
So I want to ask, since both of you played in this, and then I'm going to have a question for Bones. So first, I'm going to pose this question to you two. To me, looking at it as a former player, observing 3 different or 3 different games, right? Or 2 different games. I saw 3, but I casted 2. I really felt like the blue armor ended up not being very significant. I don't know if do we have stats on anybody controlling blue armor or not, but I don't think it mattered that much. Like,
Sadly, we don't.
I'm sure there were situations where people control, like, you got that blue armor and that blue armor was the difference in you capping or not. But I felt like the map was so chaotic that it didn't matter. So answer away, because that was my perspective.
Well,
No, we didn't. Well, I mean, we timed the blue armor, but yeah, we didn't feel like it was too important. It didn't feel like that strong on our runner anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, stats are coming soon. But yeah, the blue armor wasn't that important. It wasn't game changing. It wasn't that groundbreaking for a runner to have it. If he had it, oh well, shoot him twice.
yeah. I mean, honestly, the only thing, like, for example, during our match, it wasn't really that prevalent. But other matches, for example, had people rocket jumping. And it's actually pretty significant. It makes a big difference when you have blue armor, because I think blue armor gives you about 50% damage reduction, which means you have about 150 health when you pick it up. So when you rocket jump out of the base, most of the time that rocket jump takes about 30 to 40 health away. If you're less careful, there are some people who get away with like 20 damage taken. But yeah, that leaves you with at least a little bit over 100 health left. And you have the chance to get into your base with a high amount of health and pick up the med kit. But most people didn't really execute it that much. There were some people who did it, but like in our match, for example, nobody actually rocket jumped too much. I saw it a couple times, but then it was like Stal calling out like, yo, he rocket jumped, and I'm at mid and I'm like, oh, okay, turn around, boom, he dies. And yeah, I think it might have been better if it was a soul sphere, but I'm not sure. I think that might have been a little bit too much. It kind of depends. It's up to play testing and stuff like that. It's also the first time people played the map anyway, I think. So can't really say anything much about it right now.
Yeah. So ultimately, it sounds like both you guys would summarize it is, we're not going to ignore it, but it's not game changing the way it can be on some maps, where you fight over that objective in the center of the map, and whoever controls that objective is going to win. And I'm glad that I got your guys' insight on that, because I felt like it didn't matter that much. And shifting that to you, Bones, because I feel like you have a unique perspective just on kind of understanding the
timing
communities.
Items.
Well, not timing items. I wasn't going there, but
that joke is so old, though.
No, I'm not going there though. But being a former commissioner yourself for a league and being a part of the IDL, I mean, you've been around just as long as all of us. But you've probably been in a different seat with a little bit longer than we have from that perspective. There was, I guess, a little bit of, I don't know, divisiveness on the map. Where do you think this ranked in some of the more polarizing maps that we've had? I didn't feel like it was that bad. I don't read the chat rooms at all, because I value what's left of my IQ. But I'm just curious what your perspective is.
I mean, you're also talking to somebody now that's put like Angry Face into a WOD, and I genuinely like that map. There are plenty of people that disagreed with the map choices that I made. If you look at it from like a season perspective, it was always, when you're trying to build a season, if it's 5 maps or 8 maps or whatever, you're looking at, a mixture. So maybe you want to have like 3 frag heavy maps, you want to have a couple teamwork maps, and then whatever is left over, a spammy map, a small map, a large map. So like if you look at it from that perspective, with the rest of the maps this season, I think it fits in pretty well, because each map should try to capture a different like skill set of the team. So it's not the worst map that's ever been put in the WOD, or and that's making it sound like a bad map. I don't think it's a bad map. There have been much worse choices. I put ZD CTF map 2 in a season. I mean, come on.
I thought that was a good map. I don't care what anybody says.
It was a good map, in 2004. It was not a good map when I put it into the season in 2012, or whatever the year was. But like,
much worse map. BPCTF made it into that WOD.
I like that map. I mean, I do. I think it plays better as a 3-way map, but it's not fair. It's not that bad. But like, if you're talking about the sphere, I always felt like, or armor, sphere and armors. I always preferred to put emphasis on them in larger maps because you're going to have a longer time in between flags, flag to flag, that you're going to need probably a little bit more health. So like on a map like that, where maybe a team might focus on the armor, if it's your team, you might be able to do some stuff around them, and while they focus on that, you can maybe get the flag a couple more times. I don't know. On a smaller map, it never made much sense to me, but I will say, if you're playing it like you would play map 14, which is Cab's map, you definitely need that blue armor to do the rocket jumps, which I noticed Cab was doing. So I feel like the map is too new to have any of those nuances yet. But yeah, I guess if I was playing it for the first time, I wouldn't focus on the armor.
All right, you ain't gotta get hot about it, dude.
Was I?
Yeah, I mean, you sounded kind of mad.
This is just how I talk. This is just
somebody brought up something about a ghost or something, but
it's all good,
should we segue into the games this week?
We should, yes. So
Mr. Radio host.
Yes, unless you'd like to host it for me, we can go into. Let's see. Okay, so one of the games this week was Frag Yourself. I believe this was the first game. Frag Yourself and the Walking Toilets. So 2-round game. FU got 5 points. They got 10 total captures, so they got as many flags as they could. They had 344 frags. They only leaked 5 flags, so that means Walking Toilets got 5 flags throughout 2 rounds. 281 frags, so a decent 60 frag discrepancy. You guys were in this game, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm going to, and I'd love to hear your perspective on how the game went.
Well, kind of a rough start. Every round, I think we leaked about 1 or 2 instantly.
Yeah, that's probably my fault, honestly. I always start every round shaky. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's nerves or.
I gave that one up, guys. I'm good now.
20 years and I still get nervous before each one. Imagine that.
Yeah, it's the same for me, to be honest, because I'm the one playing mid, and during practice, a lot of people told me to be a little bit more aggressive. So I figured, yeah, sure, I'll put up a little bit more aggression, and I tried to do that against TWT, but I think that was kind of a bad decision because I let Stal get 2 people in every single time, which kind of puts him in a bad position. And when you're already kind of nervous, it's kind of like a recipe for disaster. It's not really your fault, honestly. It's more my fault for not being more defensive at the start, knowing like Daston, for example, is a pretty good runner.
And Tiger.
Yeah, and Tiger. I totally forgot Tiger was running. That's true. So they were constantly running 2-0 on us. And it was really hectic, and I'm just glad Poto is a really good runner as well, because if he wasn't getting the flags out, I sure as hell would not have done that. So we had a rough start, but we brought it back eventually every single time. And Stal really good on defense. Anybody gets in, they get annihilated. If they don't, then I'm just waiting for them at mid every single time, backing each other up, trying to get that blue armor, not letting both of those players get it, because in Daston or Tiger's hands, one of those pickups might be one of the cap runs. You never know. Can always happen. You're both really fucking good at running flags out of the base every single time. So yeah, I think Stal did a phenomenal job at defense. Really held it down. I don't know how you play defense on that map. I like playing it during practice by staying in the base a little bit and pushing up when I was told to. But go ahead, man.
Well, I just did mostly flag D. I tried to push out a few times, but we got caught. I'm just happy that I didn't shoot Poto. with the flag coming in, because I did that a few times in practice.
Yeah, we did that a lot.
I just see the opposite color, I shoot. I don't use the override colors because I'm just used to red and blue. So
I see
Yeah.
red, I shoot.
I see red, I shoot.
Dude,
That's kind of how it. That's kind of how it went.
dude. Shit
Uh,
stuck in my fucking memory. Fucking 15 years later, I don't know, bro. I see red, I shoot.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it fucking YOLO it. Go ahead,
You
Sal, my
can't-
bad.
Yeah, I know
but-
what that's like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Poto pulled off a few rocket jumps, if I'm not mistaken. I saw him flying across mid a few times in our game.
Oh
so
yeah.
he did a phenomenal job. So did Juden. So I mean, like our comms are pretty good. I mean, it sucks Poto can't tell us where he's coming out from, but
Yeah.
eventually we'll get the flags out and home.
Exactly.
So
It's just
I'm looking at it and I wonder what you guys think of this. Naturally, I'm not asking you to verbally eviscerate the team that you just played against. But I'm going to be honest with you, looking at the total flag scores. It's like, yeah, you guys controlled the game for sure. But it also seemed like it was a lot closer than it should have been. And to be fair, like a team with both Dastin and Tiger would be extremely annoying to defend and very difficult to defend. But I look at your guys' roster and I look at theirs and I'm just like, this on paper looks like a complete mismatch. So I guess my question is do you think the scores were attributed to, look, it's the map? It's just first game of the season, we're figuring things out, or do you think they were genuinely that good to keep up with you guys?
They're definitely a very offensive heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Dastin was playing. Well, Dastin and Tiger were swapping positions. It's hard to tell who's playing what throughout the match. But what was I going with this? It's hard to control the map. Like look at the VBM versus ORB. One round was very close, one flag, and the next round was a blowout. It's just a hard map for, I would say, the better team to really control and dominate the map entirely and just win 10-0 or 5-0 each round. So
Hey, one team did it.
One team did it, but maybe the discrepancy between the teams were much more
All right.
than ours. I don't know.
I'm trying to lead you to say something bad about the other team, and you just won't do it.
no,
What do you want me to
because
say?
honestly, if
I'm
you
just-
ask
I'm-
me,
I'm just messing with
it was kind of like a mixture of it's the first game of the season and we're getting to know each other, although we really got to know each other pretty well during practice because I've played with Stal on my team before during some random event. Wasn't
Have we?
that like a couple of years ago with Amar, or was that Ty that I had on my team? It's possible that it
Probably
was
Ty.
Ty. But
I don't think we've
you know,
ever
we've
played together.
played together during practice. We played together in previous practices during WDL. We were on the same team practicing with other people, getting on voice chat sometimes. So, you know, that was kind of easy going, but it was kind of like a mixture of just like the map being, you know, the map because it's just a really offensive heavy map. If you have a really good offense, it doesn't matter who the defense is. It doesn't matter if you have the strongest team in the league. Runners are going to run flags on you no matter what. And it's just a combination of the defense and the middle communicating together, being able to get the flags back. And also, you got to keep in mind, like, Tiger has been getting a lot better lately. Same for Dastin. And I think it was Warrior on their team.
Warrior.
Yeah,
was
he's
their
definitely
defender.
been improving a lot as well lately. So you got to keep in mind that although on paper it looks like a blowout because you have me, for example, having been around since 2005 in Skulltag, Zandronum, and Z Damon. You have Stal, who's been around for longer than me, I think. And, you know, like that kind of makes people think, oh, they're veterans. They're going to be so good. But, you know, you got to give it to TWT. The players on that roster have been improving so much that basically, you know, it's a new map and they can show off their skills a lot better because we're still getting used to the map as well. I think, for example, if it was like a map like map 29, the one where the blue armor is in the acid in the middle, I think we could have done a better job from the start right there, me and Stel playing defense / middle together, because you can really push out the mid there. And if we had that 60 frag deficit right there, we probably would have done a better job. But this map was just so chaotic, and you can frag as many times as you want. I can kill people in mid all day, get 100 frags, and it's not going to change anything, because at the end of the day, if by chance they get in with 2 people one time and they run a flag and they spawn frag style and they kill me on the way out, it's gone. It's cap. Doesn't matter if I have 100 frags, 200 frags, it's not going to change anything. They're still going to cap. At the end of the day, it's flags over frags, so I can't say anything bad about them. All of them have been improving. I had Tiger on my team during WDL, and that guy is just a running machine. You can hardly stop him. So, it's
lagging machine.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's just more that I think really highly of both Tiger and Dastin, and I think when Dastin is dialed in, he's one of the best players in any league. But I mean, I don't know much about Warrior. I've played with him in private before. I think
he's a MAR 2.0, mini MAR.
I mean, I didn't come away thinking he was exceptional. Definitely solid. And I thought maybe that would be an area that was exploited. I guess it was. I mean, you scored 10 flags. But I was just, I mean, I guess the flip side of that is give it to Tiger and Dastin. I mean, who wants to defend that combo, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think limiting Dastin and Tiger to 5 flags in 2 rounds is not bad. I'll take it. Plus, considering that they kept knocking me out in the past tournaments or leagues, I'll take it as a W.
Hey, man, got to do it in the playoffs, though. Got to do it in the playoffs.
That's true.
That's true. But, it's kind of cocky to say this, but I think we're good to get into the playoffs. I think we really have a solid team that could go pretty far. We got Desparrow, we got Poto, Stal, me. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you sub. There's always going to be like all of us are second and third players. There's not a 4th player that's going to be subbing for someone if somebody might not make it. Let's say Desparrow's lagging out, I join in, and it's basically the same thing. So, I think we have a really good team to go off of, but honestly, there's a lot of good teams in the season this time around. And, as you said earlier, on paper, we may have been better than TWT, and we might have been supposed to not let a flag out, but they're getting better as players. That goes for everybody else in this league. Most of the players are playing Zandronum this time around. Last time was on Otomex, something they're not really used to, something they're not really familiar with, because Otomex isn't really played on the daily. Let's say private CTFs usually played on Zandronum, so it's kind of like their home field, let's say. So I feel pretty comfortable, but there's always that off chance that something might happen. Some other team that you might think is not going to make playoffs is just gonna blow everybody out the water.
Everything kind of went as I expected, though. I wasn't shocked, I don't think, by any of the results. There was one game that shocked me how one-sided it was. But I think you guys winning, I expected that. And getting off to 5 points. I mean, basically, you just have to do it again and you're in. It would be very difficult mathematically, especially when it's win or lose and there's no tie. It's unlikely that going 2-2 is going to boot you out of the playoffs. If you already go 500, I don't know who you guys play next week, but yeah, I mean, all you got to do it. That'll be tough.
That's gonna be tough.
I don't think you. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that, I'm sure, but
we will. So the second game of the week was VBM versus ORB. So VBM got 9 total captures, 362 frags. They only leaked 3, so that means ORB got 3 captures and 323 frags. I was kind of surprised by how close this game was at the very beginning. You know, it was round one was sort of up in the air for a little bit. Like VBM took the early. No, sorry, ORB actually scored the first flag, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
And then VBM came back and went up like 3-1. ORB came back and scored, and it was 3-3. And then VBM just walked away with round one, and then round two was much shorter. So I was really surprised. Again, it's like the first game of the season. Teams probably getting used to playing with each other. But I was surprised by how close round one was. I honestly expected like round two to happen in round one as well. So, and that's not to knock ORB. That's just VBM is a ridiculous team. I thought they really controlled everything pretty well once they settled into their the positions that were working for them. ORB, I feel like they just need a dedicated runner. They need somebody that they can rely on to get flags out no matter what. I don't think they had that in that game. I think they have players on their team that can do that, but they weren't able to find that person in that game.
So I'm going to go ahead and take the lead on this since I live casted the game and I got to see it live. And I just want to...
Live?
Yeah, dude. Live and in living color. But I just want to put this out in the air. I want to put this out so everybody knows. How in the blue fuck did the entire league let Ninja Dog not only get Langrenus, but get Dranzer and Skull Rush?
Wasn't I waving my arms?
You were.
Yeah, you were doing your...
You were. I will
Didn't
never
work.
understand how they let that happen. Now,
I think it's because there was so many other players still available that they were just like...
I know.
Take
And
'em.
you know what? Like, then I look at your guys' team and I say, how the fuck did they let that team happen? Like, it's the same thing.
Toto
with
just
your
had all the
guys'
money at
team.
the end. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
So-
played it smart.
But putting that, aside, I gotta say, I was actually more impressed with ORB's round one than I was with VBM's round two. The reason is because on paper, I think ORB, you stick that team in most leagues any other season, they're a favorite to win. You stick them in the league this season, and I think at best they're the 3 seed. And to be honest with you, the way the first round was going, VBM was controlling the pace of that match, like for the vast majority of it. That's why they get that 3-1 lead, right? But then our ORB just runs off 2 in a row towards the end. And ACC was playing out of his fucking mind. I think people don't remember like how good he is because when was the last time he played in the league? Was it WDL 2020?
Yep, it was.
Yeah. I mean, 3 years ago. That was the last time he played in the league, but people forget like this guy's really fucking good. You know what I mean? And I felt like he put that fucking team on his back and carried them. I think he had one of the fucking caps in round one. Like it was a really insane performance. And I thought Nexus was okay. Seemed like he was more on mid. I mean, Wiz did confirm that he was on mid. He sent me a message earlier.
Yeah, he was.
I thought it was okay. I wasn't blown away by his performance. Shane was, I mean, he had good moments. I mean, there were some plays, especially in the beginning, like when they ripped off that first flag. Shane's just out there fucking beasting everybody. But then he kind of just disappeared, probably because he got into like a hate fucking episode with the map or something.
Yeah,
But-
I think that's probably what
Yeah,
happened
we've
round
seen
two.
that.
But yeah, like round one impressed me the most from an individual performance because I thought ACC was nuts. And I thought that even though they lost, they played them really tight. And I'm thinking like, okay, they're going to go into round two and I expect VBM to win. But I feel like ORB is going to go into round two saying, yeah, we can play with these guys. Like, ACC, Nexus, and Shane, just went toe to toe with a team that has Ninja Dog, Dranzer, and Langrenus. And let me put something into perspective for everybody, just so we understand something. Ninja Dog has won like what? He won the WDL, won Vengeance prior to that. The previous WDL season to Ninja Dog winning it, which was 2021, Dranzer was on that team, and Dranzer was one of the leading players on that team. Langrenus was the other Vengeance winner. So you're taking three of the most winningest players in terms of a success, like the best you could do, win a championship, right? And you put them onto one squad. And those three players, I mean, easily Langrenus and Ninja Dog were the best teams on the best players on those teams. Dranzer and Dastin, I think Dastin's better, but boy, Dranzer has crazy ceiling when he's playing well. And he played well, especially in the second round. For them to take them to like the first round like that, like I said, is pretty impressive. Now in the second round, you kind of saw, like I said, it was just they took control. They didn't lose control, and they just kind of ran them out of the building. So I guess that's what I have to say. Like, shout out to ACC, great game, but yeah, unfortunately, you just ran into a buzzsaw, and sometimes it's just not enough.
I was honestly a bit confused on their lineup because I know they practice mostly with Seneca on O. So I asked like what happened afterwards, and apparently their decision was communications. Shane has it, and Seneca doesn't. So they had no idea where he was coming out of the base. Probably causes some frustration within the team, and I guess they decided to switch it up. I don't think they practice much with Shane, but I could be wrong on that.
But it's hard to know that, though. Go ahead, Densaw.
Honestly, like the thing about Shane, he can be so good. Like you said, he has his moments where he's just basically unstoppable. The guy is a good spawn fragger. He can lock the defense in the base and make it so that it's only 2v2 in their own base when they get the flag. But you can't let stuff like the map get to you, because honestly, something I learned, and this is something I learned from Demon Sphere, like back in the day. It doesn't matter if you hate the map. It really doesn't. All you got to do is make the map hate you. Simple. You got to play it like a motherfucker. If you don't like a map, play it more. It's all the more reason to go and play it and get good at it. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be a map in any league that you may not like. And if you're going to let that get to you, well, basically what you're saying is like, hey guys, I'm that player on the free agency list that just plays like shit on this map because I hate it, or that map because I hate it, but I'll play really good on the maps I love. So you're basically a situational player. You're somebody who's only going to be played when like your favorite map is on, and going to be benched when your least favorite map is on. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't like this map at first either. I just kept playing it and playing it and playing it. I didn't want to practice, but I just kept practicing. And eventually you get to this point where it's like you care more about playing with your team and having a good time with your team and not letting your team down than going on a whole rant where he writes this much text, like a whole book about, Jake, you got to change this. Jake, you got to change that. Jake, you got to change this.
What were you thinking?
I know, right? Well, I was like, calm down. Like, okay, you may not like the map, but that was, you knew all week long that you should have practiced it. I didn't see Shane practice much. I mostly saw him playing Z-Damon free-for-all. That's...
Yeah.
Wait. People are playing Z-Damon free-for-all?
Yeah. Every now and then I like to hop in.
Funny that. Both teams have to play the map too. It's not like you play that map and then the other team gets to play their favorite map. You're both playing the same map. So that's not an excuse. Like, and I get
You're not at a disadvantage.
I get it. I have played some maps in the past that I absolutely fucking hated. But it doesn't matter. Like you said, like you're going to run into a map that you just don't like. And if that's going to be the difference between you winning or losing or making the postseason or winning a championship, if the map is that difference outside of like a specialty map, like a really absurd specialty map, then it's time for you to reevaluate your skill set as a player. Because a map shouldn't be having that difference on you. Because if it is, then you're coming up short as a player. And I'm not saying this is an attack on a player like Shane. That's just a general rule of thumb that you should have as a player. Like, I'm not going to let this map make the difference of whether we win or lose, because I'm going to, like you said, practice my ass off to make sure that I'm as ready as I can possibly be. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's one of two questions that you have to ask yourself. Do you really want to do this anymore? Number one. Or number two, are you selling yourself short because you're letting that map be that difference? And both of those questions require a great deal of inflection and humbleness. And not everybody has that. And it is harder to have that as you get older, by the way, because eventually you're just like me and you're like, I don't have time for this shit. I just quit. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's where you're at, maybe it's time you should start asking that question.
Yeah. Because, this kind of takes me back to WDL. I think 2012, 2013, when map 32 in the WDL pack was being played. The one where you have the lift jump all the way up the back, and there's this big jump you can do over the middle with the blue armor right there below. I hated that map. I hated that map so much. And, me just being like that, while I was playing, I was on a team with the regulators, Josh, Torvald, and Watermelon, right? My main issue is during practice, I'd be like, I hate this map. And I'd just constantly be complaining, which resulted in me getting benched. Too long didn't read. I basically screwed up my own game because I didn't play bad. When I was focused, I was good. But when my enemies, for example, I'm running after them and they do the lift jump and they get into the base and they cap, that's when I go down. That's when I start complaining. And that's when the game goes from 1-1 to 5-1 for the enemy team, because I'm complaining all the time. And, I try not to do that as much anymore, but I think that's basically what happened, because round one, as you saw, they had 3 flags. Nobody expected ORB to get that high of a flag score against VBM, but they did, which means they are good. They are a good team. They have a chance because, Nexus isn't bad. He's a really good duelist. Sometimes I beat him, but most of the times he's beating me, and I used to play duel every fucking day back in the day. So that's basically my main game mode, but he's really good. He has really good aim. He has really good positional awareness. He has everything he needs to be a good mid or defense.
He's a great defense, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. He's got it all.
Very
he
good.
has everything he needs: tactical advantage, aim, a brain. Right? He's a really good player. So
face of this planet.
Yeah. So it's kind of sad that one player can just drag a team down like that. I'm pretty sure if they played, did they play Seneca in round 2? They didn't, right?
They were Shane both rounds.
I'm pretty sure if they did, they might have actually been able to maybe not win, but get a closer game than they did in round 2.
I got to say something too before we go to the next game, because this is something that I want every player in the league to please heed this advice. When we went into that game as casters, Zanero and I, obviously everybody else is playing under their name, but Shane was playing under a different name, like MK or something.
MZ.
Please use your fucking name that you signed up under, because as a caster, I might know who you are, but somebody watching who isn't privy to the community doesn't know who the fuck MZ is, especially when they look on the Discord roster sheet and it says Shane, Seneca, ACC, and Nexus. ACC did the same thing, but and then the next game you had Amar play under a different name, and then when I ask you who it is, you're like, "Oh, I'm Seneca," and it's like, okay, look, it's, you could joke around like that in private, but if you want any of us to take this seriously, then you need to take it seriously. So I am just asking, as a caster and as somebody that has a virtual stick up my ass, please use the name that you signed up under. If you hate your name that much, then change it.
Yeah, me and Stal were laughing about that last time because at some point I was just looking at Shane's name and I was like, MZ. Oh, right. He used to call himself MZ back in the day, like EMZEE. And I was like, this makes sense, right?
Then
But
sign
he
up under
signed
that
up.
name.
Yeah, he signed up with a different name, right? But to me, like, I didn't know who like MZ in ORB was. And then I was like, wait, it's MZ, Shane, right? And then Stal was like, yeah, it took me a minute to figure that out as well. I was like, yeah, of course. It's just, it's a 2-digit name.
Just another example that Kilgore was fucking right, dude. Like he would have. Z-Damon got to a point where you couldn't change your name in game anymore. Kilgore was fucking right. We are learning the hard way 20 years later.
Yeah, I mean that is one strong point about Z-Damon. Got to admit.
Sorry, Bones. We hijacked this entire show.
Oh no, I'm cool. I think it's really shitty. Because I've had plenty of teams where, like, I guess in an ideal world, I would try to pick, 3 players that I felt were of similar skill level, because I was a really big proponent of having 4 people on a team that were sort of interchangeable. But there were seasons where that wasn't possible, so I would always pick somebody that I felt like you have like an up and coming player that you can use it as a 4th, play in practice and all that stuff. And when you have somebody, and I've had the situation on my team, so I'm not like specifically pointing fingers at people, but I've had like veteran players on my team who complain and whine and bitch and moan, but they are obviously the more skilled player, so they get the spot over that person that is not as experienced. And so then you're like in this situation, Seneca. I mean, Seneca's a newer player in comparison to everyone else on that team, I think, unless I'm wrong. Here's somebody that like could have contributed very well to a game, but probably got benched because of a couple factors. But I would assume that Shane's experience is pretty high up there on the list. So to then turn around and act not so great, and look, I've been an asshole before too, so you can say a lot of things about me, but I don't know. It just kind of sucks, and I'm sure that's not like that fun for the captain to have to deal with. I've had players on my team that go and make a big deal about things in public, and it's like, it's like you already have to worry about trying to practice a fucking map, and win a game, and then you've got somebody like, I don't know, somebody forgot to take their medicine this morning. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it just kind of brings like a negative light to things. But
yeah, it reminds me of
that's my spiel.
I don't know if you remember during WDL when I was on Zakin's team. All
you have to do is say Zakin.
Yeah,
we get it. Yep.
He just went on, like, it's one thing when it's one player on your team that's being like that. You can bench them, move on, play your 4th. But if it's the captain, God, you can't do anything about it because the captain decides who plays. And if the captain is having a breakdown, well, you know where it's going. But let's hope that does not happen this season. You got to ask Legion. He's the one running the show these days.
That's true. Speaking of Legion, so our final game of the week was the Net Boys. I don't like saying that loud. Versus No Luck's Given. So this one, we'll go through the stats real fast. So No Luck's Given, they scored 5 points. They had 10 total captures, 179 frags. DMB, they got 0 points. They had only 2 captures. They actually had more frags. So I was really surprised by this. And I think I probably mentioned at some point during the draft that, like, giving Ross King up for $24 to Amar, but I think the lineup of Xwiz, Infer, Ed, and Saltmine on paper read so much, I don't want to say so much better, but it read like a more complete team than No Luck's Given. But I also said, like, if anyone's going to figure it out, if anyone's going to make it work, it's Ross King. And I feel like he just took over. I mean, I was watching him. I mean, and that's not to say like Legion was getting a ton of flags. Legion was going crazy in that game, getting touches after touches. But Ross King was also like doing what Ross King does, and like grabbing flags and rocket jump it. I can't rocket jump. If I stood still for 5 seconds and tried to rocket jump, I would end up with 5 health and somewhere over there. Like I can't do it. And Ross King can just run up to a flag and go and go sideways out a window. Like it's crazy. So I feel like he really kind of took over the game, and I was just really surprised that there wasn't a lot of cohesiveness for DMP. Could be the first game of the week, could be a new map, could be anything, but yeah, I was just expecting to see a little bit more teamwork from them. I don't know. What did you guys think?
Well,
first, I'd like to clarify that the name the Net Boys is an homage to our lovely community member of Rampage, HD Rambo. So, just to clear that up.
Didn't he bail?
No, I think he's still around.
Yeah.
Maybe. But to get back to the game, I think it was just, I don't know if it was like a lack of practice, maybe against like good players or good teams, but they definitely need to switch it up. That they have certain positions, whatever positions they used during the game, just was not working for them. I don't know if they switched it up during round 2. It didn't look like it. It looked like they kind of just did the same thing round 2. That's where, as like a captain, you have to realize like, okay, this isn't working. Let's switch it up, mix it up completely, and take it from there.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like during practice, I did notice that DNB wasn't playing their best, in my opinion. I expected more, especially having Wiz on that team. That 9 ping is already scary as hell, let alone in the hands of a player who has really good aim and really good awareness and a lot of experience to go with it. So I feel kind of sad that they didn't bring a better game because, obviously on the other team, you have Amar, somebody who also has a lower ping and really good aim and really a lot of experience, a lot of years on his back, couple of wins in leagues as well. And Ross King is just, that guy, he's one of the fastest players I know. He's Sonic the Hedgehog in Doom. I don't fucking know how he does it. He grabs a flag, he doesn't even turn around. He just shoots the rocket 45 degrees to the right, and he jumps out of the base. Every single other player that I know of just goes there, turns around, shoots the floor, and goes out. He just goes like, boom, he's gone every single time. I don't know how he does it. He's just so fast. He's he has his aim, for example, is all over the place, but he will not miss a shot. I don't know how he does it. His aim is just everywhere, but it's like I think he's just I don't know. I think he's just aiming everywhere and taking in all that information somehow in just a split second. And he will hit the shot, switch to the rocket launcher, boost the hell out, and he's gone. Low HP gone. Low HP, low damage taken. He just, I don't know how he does it. He's so fast about it. He hardly has any delays when he runs. He just goes in, rocket jumps, goes out, and you're left wondering, like, where the fuck is this guy? Where the hell did he go? He has to be in base. And oftentimes you see that in the enemy team, like you see them turning around, but Roski's already running the other way into his base, and they're turning around looking into their base like, oh, where's this guy? He has to be here somewhere. We didn't see him go out. It's impossible. He's just so damn fast. And pair that up with Amar, who's just an awfully good, like he's a great player that just backs his team up anytime. He knows where to be. He always knows where to be. If Rosking is rocket jumping out, Amar is near enough to spawn frag or frag anybody that's trying to get him on the way out. And sometimes he fails and Rosking dies. But when that happens, Amar picks it up and he runs the cap. Right? So you have a really deadly combo of a team right there. And it's just sad that DNB wasn't able to figure out their lineup, I think, because, on paper, that is a really good team as well. In my opinion, I expected them to go toe-to-toe, honestly.
But yeah, I think I'm with you on that, Denzo. I was definitely expecting a very close matchup. At the beginning of the telecast, I had said I expect that these teams are going to play exactly alike. Now that said, it's very difficult to duplicate Ross King's style.
Yeah.
As you
Yeah, it
as
is.
you as you were getting at, I mean, what it comes down to, he's just very decisive. There's no time spent on doubting what he's going to do. He knows what he's going to do.
Exactly.
And you play that way, you live and die on that sword. I mean, there's times where I've seen him burn his own team doing it, but more times than not, he comes out successful. And watching that match, there's a couple things that were kind of clear to me. DMB was not in rhythm. I mean, they just weren't. And I'm not sure if that was because of what NLG was doing or if it was because DMB was just not well practiced and well prepared. I suspect it was kind of a combination of both. It tends to always be that way in everything. It's usually not one thing, it's always multiple things. But at the same time, there was something that was very kind of like not enlightening, but there was just like this light bulb that went off in my head. And I was like, dude, this looks like a Caboose team. I say Caboose because I'm used to calling them that, but this looks like a Ross King team. Looking back at the WDL last season, and I know they made it to the finals, so let's not pretend that a Ross King led team fell off a cliff. They still made it to the finals in the WDL. But you looked at that team and they struggled at times. And they did not have that typical Ross King identity of pressure, 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 pressure. I saw Ross King frag more than I've ever seen him frag in some of those games, where he's like the lead fragger for both teams. Like he's playing outside of his comfort zone because he had holes in his team that he's not used to having. And usually, even when he has them, he overcomes them anyway. But that team seemed also out of sorts, even though they made it to the finals. I mean, they got waxed in the finals, but they were also against a team, I think, that was also just vastly superior. But, still, regardless, I watched that game on Sunday. It was very quick. And I thought to myself, he's back. Like, this is what we didn't have last season in the WDL when he played. And he really hasn't played since I think the summer of 2020 WDL. He hasn't played in any other league since then prior to last WDL. So watching that game is just like, I mean, I know exactly what he's saying in comms, and he's comms are always good, but the whole you thought as he's like running away. But I mean, dude, like when you play that well, like you get to talk shit. So looking at the stats, I always point this out. You will look at frags against a Ross King led team, and you'll be like, how the fuck were they in a 30 to 40 frag deficit, but won by a total of 8 flags in 2 rounds? It's Ross King, man. Like, that's what they do. They pressure you to death. They don't care how many times they die because they're going to value flag touches over frags. And they're going to tell you, do something about it. And I don't know. Like, I kind of made this point too in the telecast. I think DNB is trying to build that way and play that way. I know that there's players that have kind of different tendencies on that team, but they're capable of every player on that team is capable of playing that way and has in the past. And yet I just feel like NLG and DNB are very similar teams, but NLG is just a better version of that. And usually when you have two teams like that, it's kind of like a mirror matchup. The one that's better isn't just going to barely win. They're going to win by like a million because every advantage that they have is just going to be the same advantages that the other team would typically have, but doesn't. So now the only thing that's happening is their disadvantages are being exposed why they can't take advantage of their advantages. So I also want to say, and I say this because I want to preface this with maybe DMB is really fucking good, but that's just a terrible matchup for them. And they run the gauntlet the rest of the season. I'm not sure yet, but I kind of came away from that, even though it was a 5-1, 5-1 stomp. I'm thinking like, yeah, I expected better from DMB, but like when I look at their roster and I look at what they're trying to do and compare it to who they were playing against, when and where were they going to have success? I mean, Ed's a really good player. Infer's a really good player. Wiz is a really good player. All of them are capable of being good defenders, good mid players, good runners. I don't see any of them shutting down Caboose. I just don't. And you put Amar on that team, and then you stick Legion. By the way, and Bones, gave him some credit. Legion's a really fucking good player. And I don't think he gets enough credit for it, even to this date. And Legion is really good if you put him on a team where you could tell him what the fuck to do, because he'll go and do it. And they gelled together. And I don't see any world where DMB is slowing that down. So again, like, I don't want to overreact to this either, because they actually suffered the most lopsided loss of any team. And you looked at them and thought, man, this might be, the best team in the league, because Ed, Infer, and Wiz on the same team, right? But then they have the worst loss. Like, now they're in a hole because they're 0-1 with an 0-2 loss, 0 points, and they have the worst, strength of loss. I mean, or strength of victory. They don't have victory yet, but like, that's not good. But obviously, like, they're going to go back and they're going to figure that out. But I look back at that, like, I'm not so sure this was a case of DMB wasn't prepared and X player played bad or didn't do whatever. I kind of just think like NLG was a really bad matchup for them. And those things exist. Like, sometimes you just play against teams that are really bad. I mean, I think a great example, Stal and I can allude to this. When we won in 2012, we played against Ralph's team, who wasn't that good. And somehow they tied us. We're fucking mollywopping the rest of the league, like no star-led teams. And we're tying with Ralph's team with like Oath.
It was map 8.
Yeah, exactly. It's the map, but I'm saying, like, you put Tony and Oath and Ralph, who just play all D on a fucking shitty map. And it's like they're taking the best team in the league by far to 0-0-0. Like, sometimes matchups and situations on maps just make that difference. It's not an excuse. You got to overcome it. But I kind of tend to think that that's what this might have been. And I think we're going to see a very different DMB next week.
Yeah, I think so too. Because, I mean, you're right. Ed, Infer, Xwiz, killer of a team. You have Ed, human aimbot, dude doesn't miss. I don't know how he does it. If you watch him, if you F12 him, his aim is super smooth when he's tracking you. But he flicks like he's got a 1 centimeter per 360 sensitivity. He's just like, boom, instantly turned around, and he shoots you every time. His aim is godlike. If he stays in the game and he plays his best defense, no one's getting in or out. And Infer, like, you got to give the guy credit. The dude's been one of the best runners of all time, in my opinion, for many years now. He gets in, and he usually always gets the job done. And as you said, I just think it was a bad matchup. Because, you have Legioning the flag. That's where his name came from. And, I give Legion a lot of shit sometimes. Mainly because, we have a little bit of a history. But I got to admit, it was this one season of Vengeance. I think it was the first or the second. I had J Warrior during the draft on my team. And he was telling me, because I was trying to draft Legion, he was telling me, no, don't get Legion. And I was like, dude, I need Legion, because you have you, me, defensive players. If I get anybody else in this free agency list, it's going to be useless, right? We need an offensive player. And I think we made it to semifinals with Legion on our team. And I got to say, the guy was constantly just running the flags. All me and Josh had to worry about was kill anybody coming in. And that's what Legion was doing this time around as well. He was just waiting for the opportunity, picks up the flag, causes mayhem in the enemy team, camps a little bit, his flag's returned, he runs out, his team's backing him up, and they get a cap. It's just, he's just a really good, he's a tactical player. He may not have the best mechanical skill, but he gets into your head. And that is one of the best things you can do when you're playing a game, getting inside somebody's head. And that's something that Rosking also does. And having players like that on one team, all playing together, all just doing the same thing over and over, then yeah, that's just the worst matchup DNB could have gotten if they were trying to go for that gameplay style, because you basically have Rosking, the actual king of that gameplay style in Doom, right? Because he's the one that does it best. There's nobody who does it better than him, the way he plays. So if you're trying to match that, yeah, it ain't gonna happen. He's just that good at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough
There's
luck.
not many people consistently as reliable as Legion. So I agree. I mean, I think I made like 2 finals with Legion. One actually was against you, Stal, and Saber and Nostri. I think that was a.
Yep.
First of all, I mean, any team. My team had no chance in that game. I mean, we were not going to win that game. So it was like, it was me, Rust, and Legion against Stal, Saber, and Nostri. I mean, come on. But the game still had to get played. So I was like, okay, well, what's the best way that we can win? And I said, Legion, I need you to sit on the flag, and that's all you're going to do. Like, you're just going to sit on our flag and defend it from there. That's it. Don't go anywhere. Don't leave the base. Don't do that. And that's all he did. And like, it kind of gave us a chance a little bit. He did very well because we were able to come back and help him. But I mean, he's just somebody, he's like a plug and play guy, you know? It's like, okay, I need this on this map. And he does it really fucking well. So I'm glad that, you know, he's finally starting to get some, I mean, not finally, but, you know, he deserves more recognition than he gets.
Yeah, exactly. And the meth makes him unpredictable.
Yes. It's all about that content.
Yep.
Content. Wow, content.
For breakfast.
Oh God.
Turning the page on week 1, we had a brand new map in week 1. Week 2, compulsive simplicity, map 9. Very popular map, something that everybody should know. The first matchup is FU versus VBM, which is, you know, based on mathematics, the only match that is featuring 2 teams that won in week 1. So I don't know. Let's go around the room. We should give predictions for the game, because I don't even know what to think about this one, because I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, on paper, I think all the teams are great. But to me, this is like, if you put these 8 players into a game together, I feel like the server would just fucking explode. Like, I don't know how to predict a game like this. 8 really good players, 2 really good teams, and it's on like map 9, which is a fairly simple frag heavy map. It's got some like trickeration with the teleporter and the lift and stuff. So I'm gonna reserve judgment because I get to do that. So I'm gonna pass it along to Hate and make him make a prediction first.
So I'm trying to think, like, which map is this? I think this is one of the maps I actually knew.
It's a Shane map. It's the one with like the lift behind the flag-ish, with the upper ledge that kind of goes around the perimeter of the base.
You can jump out the window into the middle. There's a big
Got
like
forced
rock
impacts
structure.
up top.
I can't. I probably know. I probably know it if I saw it. Without being able to picture the map, it's a little difficult, because I think a matchup as tight as this could come down to like a very marginal difference in the map, and maybe this map favors a play style of one team over another. And again, like, I know we had this conversation earlier about, look, you can't let maps be the excuse as to why you win or lose, but we're not talking about it being an excuse. We're talking about it being a factor in making a prediction here. And I just don't know it well enough, or off the top of my head, to tell you that yet. But what I will say is, I have such a hard time picking against Ninja Dog at this point. And you stick Langrenus on his team and Dranzer, and I where's the weakness? Like, what do you expose? Dranzer is a phenomenal runner if he concentrates on just being that. But then FU is kind of the same. Like, where's the weakness? Like, what do you attack? I'm gonna go with FU. That's more of like my heart like pick right there, not really in my head, because if I went with my head, I'd say VBM.
So you want
But
us to win, but you think VBM's going to win.
I think
Yeah.
I really think this matchup is going to come down to who has the better day. Like, honestly, like I know that's like generic and cliche, but I think this is such a neck and neck matchup that it's just going to be like maybe one of these teams has a bad day and that's the difference, or maybe one player just has like an off game, or even like makes a few bad decisions and that spirals, and that's like the difference. I don't know. Like, I don't feel confident in anybody I pick in this matchup. Like, I could flip a coin and feel better about that. Okay, yeah. I know this map. So thank you for that, by the way. That helps a lot. That doesn't change anything because there's nothing to really control in this map. So there's not like the added factor of like controlling an objective. It's literally just show up in middle and beat the shit out of each other.
Yep.
And both teams excel at that. And both teams, fuck. Can I change my pick? Like, I don't want to change it though. Like, see how fucked up I am on this? No, I'm sticking with FU because I'm not so sure Dranzer is like super in shape yet. I think if this was like 2021 Dranzer, like playing the way he did in the playoffs, I like VBM in this matchup, but like I'm not sure he's there yet. And I think that you could either put, if you really wanted Style to run, but I don't know why you'd ever do that, but you could put Style.
Style's a good runner.
Yeah, but you don't run Style when he can just defend. So
Sure.
True.
Or it could do both.
You do that, but you also say going for a run, guys. And like but I could see both Denzo or Poto or Style, if necessary, frag their way to that fucking base. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel good about this pick. I don't feel good about it. I'd feel unconfident or lacking in confidence if I picked VBM too. So give me FU 3-2-3-2.
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
Yeah, 2 wins.
Okay.
I don't think I think people like overreact and they see that 2-0 and they just automatically assume that it's like a fucking stomp, and it's like, no, you could just literally beat somebody really close twice. Like you've had in the playoffs in professional sports where teams sweep teams and they are all like close games. They just one team won 4 close fucking games.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're trying to say, honestly. I personally find it hard to predict a match that I'm going to play in myself because I don't want to come off as cocky or anything or arrogant.
Oh, no, you should be going into that match thinking you're going to win.
Well, yeah, for sure. You know what? I'm going into that match and I'm going to try to go for a repeat of the regular season in WDL when me, Poto, and Tiger took down Ninja Dog's team. I definitely want to repeat that during this regular season. I just want to blow them out of the water. You know, I just want to beat them and be done with it, because this map is one of those maps I love this map. I really love this map, but it's also a tough map. And especially against a team like that, it's just, you know, it's kind of worrying because you'll never know how it's going to go. It's so unpredictable. You know, for example, they could be taking a teleport, and if you mistime it one time, they jump out and it's gone. That's it. And if you don't have good communication, if I'm playing defense and Style's playing mid, and I, for example, call out, oh, he's going side, but he's not going side because he double backed and I didn't notice, then that might also be a cap that's going, you know, because we're both going there. We're both trying to get him out. I'm trying to flush him. He's probably teleporting or going through window or top, and he's gone out of the window. He's gone. You can't do anything about it. So it's kind of tough. But I'm hoping and this is not me saying I'm predicting that I'm going to win. I'm just going to say that I hope we do the same thing we did during WDL regular season last year, I think. And we beat them in 2 rounds. No, wait, that wasn't 3. Yeah, I hope this time around it's going to be 2-0. Probably going to be a really close match, though, because you got to admit, if Langrenus gets in the base and he starts spawn fragging you, you're just gone. And Ninja Dog being on defense is a demonic threat, let's say. Doom Eternal style. He's the Marauder. He's the toughest opponent you're going to face.
They're basically the team to beat, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The result of this week is definitely going to tell us where we stand amongst, I guess, the rest of the winners of the. Well, I mean, it's hard to tell because both VBM and NLG play, I would say, a completely different style. VBM plays more similar to like the Dopey Bruiser style that you're very aware of. Whereas NLG, they have more of that typical BST style of play. So yeah, I don't know. I do think it'll go 3 rounds though. That's what I'm gonna say. I think 3 rounds. It's gonna be a close game.
I'm gonna say it's gonna go 4 rounds. But I do like FU in this game to win in 4. But it's so hard because I feel like this map is kind of perfect for both teams. So I don't see any like huge advantage. I guess maybe to echo what Hate said, like which Dranzer is going to show up, because I love Dranzer. He's played on my teams many times, but he ignored most of my DMs to practice. So, is Dranzer going to practice this week? I don't know. Maybe it was just.
It's hard to turn down a practice when you have Ninja Dog and Langrenus calling it.
That's true. That's true also. Yes. But I do think FU probably has more cohesiveness as a team right now. So that's going to be my pick.
Oh, they're cursed. FU losing 0-10 now.
Why is it mine? Why is it my choice that curses it?
And both of us picked, though. That's the problem. We both picked them. So we curse them.
Is there like a
prediction
record
curse?
Is there a prediction curse if both hosts pick? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
There is now.
Yes.
Hey, Daddy just made it up.
Hey, I'm rooting for you guys. I really am. But we know where my heart is. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's great when you don't have to play because then you can just root for everybody.
Oh, it's so fucking nice. I don't have to practice.
Well, that too. Yes.
I get to enjoy the benefits of being employed.
Hey, man, I'm employed and I'm participating as well. So, same thing.
I get it. I'm just, not all of us are.
Some of us are just built different.
Show up to work differently.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
that's true.
Or just don't show up at all.
Or just not show up at all.
And be a welfare queen.
Yep.
I'm reporting his ass.
But you know who is going to show up? DMB and Orb. That's our next matchup. So DMB obviously coming off of that, maybe a demoralizing loss, or maybe they're just going to shake it off and just move forward. Orb, like you said, they had a really strong round 1, so they have, they should have some confidence based on how they played. Again, I think we're going to see DMB take this 1 and 2, and I say that because they are a much better team than their result from week 1 says they are. They do have the pieces in place to be at the top of the leaderboard as long as they can figure their shit out. And this is kind of the perfect map for them to do that. It's familiar. They're all veterans. They're all super frag heavy. And that's not to say that Nexus, ACC, and Shane are not. But I feel like, the savviness of DMB is going to win out against Orb.
Yeah, I kind of foreshadowed this earlier when I was giving DMB a lot of props, even though they lost in really, the worst way you could. But I'm with you. I think that DMB is going to control this, and I'm not going to say win easily, but I think it'll be a very healthy win, if that makes sense. I see Wiz, going back to practice and, come on, what are you doing? Yelling.
Come on, man.
He is, and I think the game's gonna go probably not how Orb expects it, and Shane's just gonna write up an essay on why his own map is shit in the middle of the fucking match.
Oh,
Well, he must have learned essays from you. I don't know,
Hey,
man.
I just
Hey,
hope
man.
he's not going to end up changing
Timing.
that map.
I made
He's
sure-
probably gonna...
I learned the hard way about not letting your emotions spill over immediately after the game, because when you
same.
do that, the whole fucking channel jumps on top of you and
Yep.
fucks your entire day up, and then you're just like, fuck all of you unemployed, greasy handed ass, Cheeto eating, Mountain Dew drinking, dirty motherfuckers. I'm going to bed. And
I'm
I
a
come back
lazy eating man.
I come back
Oh,
the next day.
jeez.
Hey guys, how's it going? You guys okay? But yeah, I'm in all seriousness. I really think, I just think DMB is going to come out and be a much better team than what we saw in week 1. Not a complete blowout, but I think they'll control this game pretty well and win in 2.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
think
against
so
the
too.
grain and say Orb is going to win, ORB. I think they, I don't know, man. I just think Nexus and ACC are just going to hold it down defensively. And ACC is just going to be all over the place again, like he was in round 1 last week. Yeah, I just think ORB is going to win. They'll probably put in Seneca.
I hope
I
so.
do-
That would change things.
I think he's probably the better option for the map just to play offensively. And you don't need that much communication as a mid on this map.
No.
Know where your runner's coming out from. I mean, there's just this one main choke. Basically, it's the middle of the map. So yeah, I think ORB. It's gonna be a close one. I think DMB is gonna, DMB is gonna show that they're a good team, still a good team, but it's gonna be a close one in 3 rounds. I want to say, but ORB is gonna take the just by 1 flag each round. That's what it's gonna be.
I'm going to say, I'm going to go the same way as Hey Daddy is going. I honestly, it's really hard. I want to agree with Style, for example, because honestly, ORB definitely has what it takes. They definitely do. But I think it's more going to be the experience is going to win over this map, because this is like an old school, frag heavy map. And I think, in my opinion, XWiz, Ed, and Infer are just more experienced at that. Especially Infer being a really good runner. He knows all the tricks. He's a good jump maze player as well. He knows all the jumps. He'll probably be running all over Orb's defense the whole game long, I think. Not to say that ORB is not going to be able to run flags back, because in my opinion, if you ask me, I think it's going to be 2 close games. I think, and this is going to be pretty optimistic, but I think ORB is going to be taking about 3 to 4 flags every single game, and it's going to be 5-4 or 5-3 for DNB. But I think ORB, and just quote me on this, because I think ORB definitely has a chance to win. And if they do, then, well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but you can decide. I'm going to give it to DNB this time around, but if ORB wins, then, I have something to make up for, because then I'm going to feel bad that I didn't pick them. But, honestly, I think it's just going to be experience that's going to win this map. ORB being more of the newer players, the newer generation of CTF players. This kind of map is just a little bit too veteran oriented, let's say.
I will say if Seneca plays, I do think that changes things. And I'm assuming that Seneca, when he is playing, he's playing well, not playing like he's stuck playing basketball in Mexico somewhere. But I mean, I would feel differently if Seneca is going to be inserted and plays well in that match. I just feel like Shane's going to be put in because it feels like it's the obligatory thing to do in a map like that. But I would agree that Nexus and ACC give you all the power you need for fragging. Seneca is a much more refined runner than any of them are. But I'm not around, so I don't know if Seneca's showing that off day to day. I do think it's odd that if he is showing that off, why didn't he play in week 1? But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
At which point, either way you slice it, makes me feel better about picking DMB in this situation. Because if Seneca is good and doing well, why are you not playing him? And if he's not, and Shane is your top option, and you have to combat against his tilt, that's not good either. So,
hey, I'm just gonna say one thing. If they don't play Seneca, shame on them. Honestly, I had this guy in my team during some tendency in the ZCA servers, and we played against some really good teams in that. And back then he was kind of new to the scene and everything, and he played out of his mind. He absolutely fucking dominated in map 7. Obsidian Outpost is what it is, I think. One with the bridge in the middle and the lava on both sides with the med kit. Yep. He was a phenomenal player in that thing. I honestly expected less of him, and I feel bad to say that because he ended up proving me so wrong. So fucking wrong. And he's actually a solid runner as well. He has a really good mindset when he's running. He's very careful. He's very calculating. He takes his time. He's not like, zombie run in the main every time. Die, 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 die. One lucky cap, die, die. Like that's how some people play sometimes. He isn't like that. Never been like that. Not even when he just started. So they should be ashamed if they do not play him. Ashamed, you could say. But
Ooh.
yeah, I really hope they play Seneca because that might turn the tide around, in my opinion.
I think Seneca is by far one of the most underrated players to play the game.
Exactly.
I don't understand how this guy went for $1 again. It just blows my mind.
When
I play against their team in practice, his frag power is really good. His running is very good. And like I said earlier, when we were talking about the ORB game, I don't understand why this guy was sat out. Even if he was missing comms, I think the way he plays makes up for it.
Exactly.
To say the least.
Yeah, but I feel like that's kind of like a cop-out. In a map like that, it's really hard as a runner to communicate where they're coming from because they're running away probably from 2 or 3 people at once. Just show up in mid and you'll fucking see me. Just listen.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that these guys have some pretty advanced comms, but even listening in on Cab in close games when they play, their runner is not always saying where they're coming from. They do the best they can. And yes, a good player should be communicating as much as possible where they're coming from. But
bro.
Yeah. That's just to me,
that's what you get out of Seneca.
I mean, whatever, but you've got players in this community who have issues with communicating, real physical issues with it, and they're still able to effectively communicate somehow.
Exactly.
It can be overcome. I don't know if there's, and again, I don't know what the dynamics are on Orb. So, and I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to try to speak as this out of touch player because I just don't know. But I'm with you. If Seneca is in shape and playing well, the only reason I could see not playing him is because he's lagging out and can't stay in the server. Exactly. That's it. That's the only reason why. Especially, what does Shane do for you and give you what you don't already have? You have 2 powerhouse fraggers in ACC and Nexus, and ACC can literally do anything. What I mean, and I would never advocate for running ACC for the same reason that I would never advocate running for Stow. He's too versatile to just say, go run and get flagged. Like, do everything. But again, there's no position putting Shane in where you could put Shane in where he's going to add anything to that team that they don't already have. But you add Seneca to that team and it changes things. But I'm just going to make the assumption that he's not either playing well, he's not showing up to practices, or he can't stay connected. Because it can't be because he's not communicating well. That just can't be it.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
From what I've seen, he's been practicing more than Shane has. So
that's even more like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and you know, you brought up that point of physical limitations for communication, for example, and that is actually a really good point because honestly, look at Daston. The guy is legally deaf.
Tiger
like he
too.
can hear, but he's legally deaf, right? So he has a hard time communicating with people. And look at that guy. He's one of the fucking best runners I've ever seen, right? He's so good. He's so good. And he communicates by using binds, for example. That works. Poto does it too, right? Poto does the same thing. If he, for example, falls back on defense when me and Stel are out of the base due to some circumstances, it can happen when we're having a standoff and we're going out, frag the guy. He always has binds ready to say for like, oh, he's going out secondary. He's going out there, main, top. You know, and Daston does the same thing. He will oftentimes try to use his microphone, but sometimes he will not hear the calls you're trying to make. So he will try to use the binds, for example, and it works. It works. It always worked. Back in the day, people used to play like that all the time when they didn't use microphones yet. So in my opinion, as you said, it's just a cop-out. It's a bad excuse for not playing Seneca. That's all it is.
Well, I'm going to move us on to the last game here, which is the Walking Toilets versus No Lux Given. This game I'm actually super excited to watch because I really want to see the combo of like Tiger and Daston versus Ross King and Legion making those runs. I think like between all those guys, like I don't know. I know that this also is a map where people have started to refine their rocket jumping through the window and across the map. So I can totally see Ross King and Daston taking advantage of that. I guess for me, you know, the differentiating player would be Amar, and I assume Warrior will play over Vayne. But you know, I think if you take it player by player, even if you were to say that Ross King and Legion are equal to Tiger and Daston, you know, I don't think that there's like some huge gap between those those four players as opponents. I think Amar, you got to go with what Amar can bring to the table as a defender. So, and as a fragger, and on a map like this, where you've got to make like some of those quick shots because you can go through the tunnel, or you could, you know, do all these things that kind of take you out of the view of the defender really quickly. You have to be able to make those shots, and I just don't see very many people getting around Amar. Could be wrong. Like you could get overwhelmed by the offense of Daston and Tiger, but then on the other end, you know, can whoever is defending for TWT, can they hold up against Ross King and Legion? So I kind of tend to lean towards NLG in this game. I think they'll win it in 2, but you know, if TWT makes it to 3 rounds, that wouldn't surprise me either. But I do think NLG is going to take it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna step in because I just want to say this. I'm getting tired and starting to lose focus. So I'm with you in taking NLG to win, but I do think, because I think really highly of Daston as a player, I think he's gonna find a way to hero a game and just go fucking off. I think it's gonna be like a really weird kind of like blowout sort of style. And I don't mean like complete like 5-0 5-1, but like, you know, when each team wins their round, it's going to kind of be like this 5-3, maybe even 5-2. One of the games might end up being where it's like, yeah, like it was close, but you kind of had a feeling based on the way the momentum was, the mid control was, who was going to come out winning that game. And I think you're going to see the wins from NLG look like that. And then you're going to see just this crazy game where Dastin goes nuts and like carries TWT on his back for a round and gets a win for them. But I think ultimately I'm with you, Bones. I trust Amar as a third over Warrior as a third. And on that same team, you have Ross King and Legion versus Dastin and Tiger. And I think Dastin and Tiger is probably a little bit more refined offensively, especially from a mechanical standpoint. Whereas like Ross King and Legion aren't the best mechanical players, but they just fucking get it done. So it's kind of like two different styles, which makes it unique and interesting. But I'm going to go with the guy I trust more in that situation. It's Ross King. And I'm going to look at the overall roster as a whole for both teams and see who has the biggest exploit. And I think it's Warrior. So give me, like I said, give me NLG 2-1 with Dastin heroing a game.
I'm going to say TWT this time. Not because I want to be the opposite of what you guys are saying, but, you know.
Oh, contrarian.
Yeah. I have this feeling that Warrior, for example, has this trick up his sleeve where he's going to unplug Amar's internet cable. No, like honestly, I think this time around, I think you have Dastin and Tiger, right? Two of the players that people complained about the most about being unhittable. And they're going to be running on Amar, which to them is a good advantage because I think both of them may be able to get a couple of flags out. And then you have Warrior, who has been improving significantly lately. He's been improving a lot, right? As people have been calling him Mini Amar as of late because he is getting up there. And I think this one might be going 2-1 for TWT just because of that. Because I think Warrior has been improving really well. He's been becoming a really good defense player lately. And just, you know, that combo of Tiger and Dastin, man, you got to admit that's scary as hell. It's scary as hell. I've experienced it, and it's just constant pressure, nonstop. And I got to admit, Legion and Ross King are kind of like the same. But, you know, you have Warrior, who also has a low ping, who is capable of stopping players like that. Whereas Amar is dealing with two players, right? Tiger has a low ping, and Dastin has a higher ping. And they're both really slippery. Really, really slippery. Whereas Warrior has some good aim and will be able to take down Legion and Ross King pretty easily. But I think the usual, like, oh, Tiger lagging or Dastin lagging thing is going to be happening, and they're going to be quite unhittable at times. And Amar is going to be leaking due to that, forcing NLG to go back on a defensive position. So I'm just going to say TWT 2-1.
I think it's just going to be a blowout for NLG. I want TWT to be competitive in the game, but I just don't think they can match the frag power on this map, specifically on this map against NLG. I just don't see Warrior being able to stop Ross King on this map, and especially with Legion in mid, who he can hold down, like let's say in front of the base, and he can spawn frag extremely well. I think that's probably his best trait as a player, is his spawn fragging ability. So yeah, I just don't see it going to TWT. I'm sorry, guys. So 2-0 for NLG.
How dare you disagree? You should be so. No, I'm just.
All right. Well, that's it. That wraps up week 1 radio. We've got week 2 coming up probably the same day next week, I would say. We don't have any game times. We have one game time. We've got TWT versus NLG. That's happening 2 days from now on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we've got DMB versus Orb, unscheduled, and FU versus VBM. So that'll be week 2, Compulsive Simplicity, if I can say that, map 9. Thank you, Stal, Denzua, and Hate Daddy. Guess we'll see everybody next week.
Yep.
Yep.
Bye, friends.
Take it easy.
You guys later.